Okay, let's get started again. Have you tried it as well? You can do that as well with music. And there is actually a sound of infinity. Yeah, this tickled me. This is actually a mathematical problem. Yeah, but you can draw it, you can listen to it, and you can see it. You see it. Yeah, so, oh, I think it didn't like that. Let's pause it. And then we are kind of trialing this at the moment for this company, so it's not very user-friendly as far as I'm concerned. No, that is kind of what I mean. Is it now recording or not? This is a 50-50 chance. Okay, so let's have a little bit a look at the project portfolio and examples of value maximization in different scenarios. And what I've done here is it's like very basic examples to just get our head around it, and then as we are progressing we can actually look at detailed scenarios and diagnose a little bit where are they going with those decisions, and is it something that we would strive as a project manager for with certain company values and settings. Yeah? Okay, so here is a typical project, not typical, but a project portfolio that I have kind of neutralized from a student from India. She worked kind of in a cluster of SMEs that kind of belonged to a huge group of sponsors, or it was really kind of a capital venture setting, but on a non-governmental organization basis. So you had like crowdfunding jumping in, but it was really like kind of set up in a way that you could invest and own elements of the companies. Yeah? But here is what they had as missions and goals and objectives, which kind of translated into training courses for making embroidered dresses. Then there was a knitting workshop. Yeah, this was not so much to physically labor and knit, but it was showing other people and training them in a way, yeah, and giving them the resources to do it themselves. Yeah, so it's again, I've advertised that before. For example, here in Newcastle we have a Makers Fair, yeah, where you can do as well your own products or do 3D printing and stuff like that. And it's the same kind of idea that they basically set up. And then you had a subset of subsidized credit scheme. This is actually what you could as well invest in via crowdfunding, or you could as well buy kind of shares in some of the different SMEs, which is an interesting thing to do. So it was kind of like it's similar to the initial blue chip companies if you have played around with investments, or interesting thing. Then equipment leasing, so you could kind of rent it for a decent price, or there were as well reward schemes. So if you would, you could as well pay in services. Yeah? So you could lease equipment and then kind of train people in knitting if you showed you could knit. Yeah? So it was kind of cool. Yeah? And then you had as well locate sellers of cheap raw materials, or they had as well a lot of stuff being actually kind of given, the word escaped. I basically got a lot of material as well, kind of for free, so which was cool. And then, of course, they had as well a database of prospective buyers, and this was like one of these wonderful portfolios. To give you another one example of a commercial organization, yeah, this is again something that is actually here from a local company, but again the mission goals and objectives kind of retain themselves into different elements here. Creation of new product manufacturing facilities. Then we had a main set that was kind of technical upgradation upgrading or expansion of existing manufacturing facilities. Then new product development, substantive modification of existing products, and then as well training of managers and employees in total quality management. So you can see that this. What time do you think this was done? TQM? Has anybody come across total quality management? Yeah. Recent? Yeah. Oh, okay. No, sorry, it was not. But yeah, it's like it's 8 years ago. So this example. Yeah. So they have shifted now a little bit, but it's still. It depends where you are in the quality management. It's still as the system works. Yeah. So then redesign of some existing process assets. That was as well another one. Do I have more? Okay, I've broken it a little bit further down with a commercial company. Now, with the organization's mission, goals, objectives, and structure, culture was quite important, yeah, priorities and support infrastructure. So here we had already a project management office and different information databases that needed to kind of communicate to each other, which was interesting because it was private systems and you know, companies. They normally do it, but it needs persuasion. Yeah, and those were kind of the project performance, project portfolio management processes that were used to actually then look at new product development, process modification or re-engineering, as well the IT systems, capacity expansion, maintenance and renovation, and compliance. And this kind of was used, and this is my illustration of the portfolios. Yeah, so this is like symbol interpretation. So how many different types of projects do you have? We assume it's all projects. Yeah, we don't assume they are. Or maybe squares are programs. Yeah, this kind of resonates with me. So if the squares are programs and the stars are big projects, single kind of projects that are strategic value, and the rest are normal projects. Are you with me? How many single project types do we have?
4.
I like the diversity of answers. Yeah, this is wonderful. So I'm pretty sure we had the right answer in between. Yeah, so the single projects, I have to say, I categorize it kind of like not in the right chronological order as you may have wanted it. So when we come back to our initial programs, so we have single, strategic projects that are stars. Yeah, so they are kind of the standalone single projects. Then we have the programs which are square. Now, this is now an interpretation. What does square mean? Is it the triangle? No, is the answer. Yeah. Then we have like groupings of projects that are the same symbol. Are you with me on that? No. Okay. So same shape, maybe different size. It's the same type of project.
Circles.
So 5 different types.
The blue.
Yes, this was a good answer. 5 different ones.
No,
Yeah. So
squares
and
are
how many
programs.
programs?
The squares are programs.
The squares are programs, so it's 4 different.
Yeah. Actually, now we are refining. So 5 was correct. 5 different ones, and the right answer 4 projects.
Yes.
Yeah, and 1 program. Okay, this was ambiguous on the whole line. Yeah, it was just like symbolic interpretation. Yeah, but okay, this is basically my portfolio as I tried to illustrate it here. So, and those are basically the support mechanisms that kind of are steered at the portfolio management level. Yeah, if you run over with programs, you may share even capacities directly from the sub-projects that are running within the programs. Now this is actually quite common. Yeah, so actually we look more refined at program management, so don't get carried away too far with that. So I will actually explain it kind of systematically, and we have a look at examples. But for the portfolio, this is normally where we come in. And this is as well what we normally use. Yeah, system for project classification and categorization comes in via the, if you want, the strategic direction, and of course then gets potentially filtered along the criteria that you are picking for your project selection. Now be aware, if you employ a process like that, make very careful implementation stages that you can actually check if they work. Sometimes the most obvious ones don't work, but we will come to that in a second. I have a few examples of that. So this is it. Let's have a little bit a look at project portfolios, good and bad. Yeah, this is very simplified, but I will try to explain it a little bit. So now the question for you is which one is good, which one is bad, but high risk, no expected return, long duration, lack of strategic alignment. This is often answers that you get with measuring it that way. Yeah? Lack of added value to the organization, growth of the organization at risk. Good or bad?
Bad.
Okay. Okay. You are with me. You have listened. I like it. This is good. Yeah. So yeah, this is really bad. And then we have aligned with strategy, rational to risk, return and duration. Then translating into organization will gain maximum value for invested resources, and positioning allows the organization to cope with market fluctuations. Fluctuations in the market. Sorry, that is in a way what a lot of the literature will kind of emphasize as desirable. So what does it actually mean in terms of translation? Yeah? So linking the portfolio to the business strategy is an essential step. Then you kind of want to think about screening, analyzing, and maybe even financial appraisal, yeah, before you accept projects. So it interferes kind of at the conception feasibility stage, yeah, if you think about a staged project. Then achieving the right balance and mix of projects. So it depends a little bit what kind of projects you have already in your portfolio. Yeah, and as well what your kind of remit of return is. Yeah, are you really driven on the short-term return, which in a lot of companies, managing directors, how long do they survive in a company roughly? If you're in a famous company, how long do you stay? Average?
4 years.
Yeah, this is very good. Yeah, so 4.5 years the actual number, but you're fighting here between 3 to 7 years. This is normally the wider remit. Yeah, so they want to see results in that time. Yeah, so if you have an MD and you have the best project that solves all the problems of the world, but it takes 10 years, this is very difficult to justify. Yeah, because there are different interests at that level. Yeah. Okay, that was a joke with solving all the problems, but yeah, you get the idea. Yeah. Then you have as well continual monitoring of portfolio characteristics in the project. Be careful, yeah. A lot of projects have kind of an implication of like if you have a lot of parts or sub-assembly parts that are very expensive and have a long forerun time, that looks really, really bad depending on how you are measuring this in the portfolio. You have spent kind of 3/4 of your money up front and you haven't even got anything on the side. That looks terrible in a portfolio depending on how you're measuring. So of course projects like that you would measure like that. This is kind of the point. Yeah? So be careful how you're measuring this. Then, so if you do it smart, you would actually start measuring as well the assets that you're buying in. So then the value appears in terms of assets bought in the company. Yeah? Then you have as well managing the interdependencies. Yeah? So here you're talking as well about market prices, renting machines, things like that, and as well the projects that may actually need more resources from existing resources. Yeah? So when projects run over allocated resources, you may still consider that it's worthwhile giving them the resources. So this means you have to kind of use it as a steering tool, yeah? And adjustment with regard to constraints, risk, and return on investment. And again, the whole idea behind this portfolio is it's kind of a toolkit to allow you to simply maximize the value of the portfolio, but again, there's a time implication. Yeah? So this means as well, portfolio of projects does not reflect the business strategy necessarily. No, actually, that is still my bad. I just wanted to say, what am I saying here? So portfolio of projects does not reflect the business strategy. That would be bad, yeah. Portfolio's quality is poor. I've actually seen this. This is easier said and criticized than actually getting it right, yeah. Then poor projects are often not killed, so there's attachment, yeah. You see as well how much resources have already gone into the project potentially. So you're a little bit reluctant, like, oh, this could be, maybe we have a super project manager there, and you phone the project manager up, hey, how do you think the project goes? Yeah, we're a little bit over budget, but I think I can still get it back on track. Yeah, and then with a lot of good heart, the portfolio manager thinks it will go well. Yeah, statistically not many do. But there are some that do go right. Yeah? So be aware that this is again a fine-tuning I would recommend at company level, and look as well at the project managers. Yeah? What are the strategies that may help them? Far too many projects for the limited resources available. Yeah? Then not enough projects that yield mega breakthrough, real competitive advantage, or quite frankly position you in the wrong area. Yeah? You try to position yourself for a mega project or for a prestige project that you want to bid for, and you accept all the projects that you can do quite easily, but are in a completely different area. Yeah, you don't develop the right capacity and competency. So on your CV, you are not going in the right direction. Yeah, this is a common problem too, especially if you work with local networks. Yeah, if you're involved in public sector, it's quite easy. Yeah, because people often pick the one that managed it successfully before, and you have kind of this gradual scope creep on the projects that you actually work on, that you worked on before, and the ones that you actually want to work on. Yeah, so this is a big thing, really. Oh, I saw that one more. Yeah. Yeah, so this is a tough one, but I've even refined it. Again, this goes back to my portfolio, but I suppose one notion that is before you can read that in your own time, but from my own experience as well, the research that I've done with project teams or project management offices that run on their portfolio. Portfolio management makes you a very dynamic project manager. Yeah? So you have to learn to adapt with the resources that you have, and if you come to a good team approach, kind of people-centered approach, then portfolios can be actually kind of a blessing. Yeah? But if you are very much planned and very strict, then portfolios can be something where you're in for a ride, that takes you places. So it really kind of emphasizes this dynamic capacity at the project team level to interact. Yeah? Yeah, here I've given you a few kind of stepping stones that are extremely summarized, so that they're refined ones. I'll show you a few models in a second, but this is effectively what you do. You kind of have to understand your context of the organization, mission, goals, objectives, culture, very important. Yeah, kind of understand how you have run projects in the past. If you're going for like something like an agile approach and you have used in the past, for instance, 2 templates or something like that, then you're going here for a stretch. So you may not want to start on the most competitive project with that approach shift. Yeah. So it's as well culture, structure, and infrastructure that you have, communication, ICT, things like that, or physical buildings where you're based, processes, environment. So this is kind of what you really have to understand. And then inventorization is kind of like comprehensive listing of all active, on hold, proposed projects at all levels of the organization. Normally you even combine that kind of with people, expertise, competences, preferred kind of project categories like that. Yeah. Then you have multiple assessment criteria, qualitative and quantitative tools normally. I name you a few in a second. There we will have a look at that. Software applications. You saw the examples there with bubble diagram and like kind of. I don't know why we had that. In PepsiCo we had a lot of these speed meters. Yeah. Where and it was not 0 to 100. It was like smileys. Yeah, and then if it got to the grim, like the straight face, you knew that you have to be careful. Probably the managing director comes around to go, oh, tell you your project's going. Yeah, this is so. Yeah, so yeah, it's like this. So, So it was stressful, but yeah, okay, little joke on the side. So analysis and assessment is here the first round, and you see it's an iterative process. Yeah. So then you kind of have a determination of a portfolio. Here you have like maintain balance of the projects to create optimal mix based on their cost, return, risk, and schedule. At that point, you normally formulate as well for kind of investor anticipated return on investment. Yeah, so you kind of measure the risk against past projects. You look, okay, how long have we taken on those projects? How well did they go? So very simple exercise by evaluating numbers, how long we have taken by average, how much have we planned, what is the likelihood on overrun. So a risk assessment and evaluating kind of ratios that you want to perform in. And then you look at investment level, and then you kind of predict anticipated return on the investment. So in hard things, this is quite easy when you can measure it. If it's a physical product or something like that. If it's a change product or change project, then there's a lot of collaboration required. Yeah? But again, normally you can come up with rough prediction and see if it actually creates net value or not. Yeah? And this is normally as well what you use then for kind of applying for funding and resources for your project. Yeah? Then you come to the implementation stage. So here it's written periodically review and modify portfolio by retaining and modifying and necessarily killing as well projects at that stage. Now there's a odd thing. In my former company we were lean, so we got those values directly from the stock market, which meant like one day I would come to work and all my projects would be ready to be killed, and then kind of the Asian hemisphere with the stock markets kicked in, but they bought our stuff. Then my projects would be again up. Yeah, so be careful with this and how close you align that to market drivers, because it creates like strange scenarios. Yeah, but I mean like strange as in there are companies as well that gamble a little bit. They wait for maybe buying your product, or they wait for a particular price where they are willing to buy your product. Yeah, so it creates dynamics at that level, and depending on how often you review, it becomes a little bit like a frightening thing for project managers. Yeah? But basically this cycle, how often you review it, has as well a lot to do with how accurate and up-to-date you are. Yeah, so a floating remit of actual values. So not like having one amount, but giving a kind of a remit where you are is often a lot more sensitive at that level. Yeah? But again, this is something that you want to try and go through that loop before you really kind of use it as a key decision tool. Yeah, you can already use it as an informative tool, yeah, that gives you orientation, but trial it out a few times before you kill projects or fire more resources in. Yeah? Would be very careful with that. Now, I will just touch on that, and it has not so much to do with good and bad, although many people perceive it that way, because here we come kind of to numerical analysis. I have not given you details on the math behind it. If you're interested in this, I've done that a little bit and have companies to kind of set up a selection criteria and come up with a hierarchy process really to measure their net values that they had. So net present value being one of them, yeah, you can as well kind of look at other ones. Then come to me. There are a lot of mathematics around it, but it gets quite mathematical. So here we have normally net present value. This is like kind of return on investment adjusted with time value of money. Yeah, if you're an international company, you may not go for money. You may have your own currencies internally. Yeah, that you kind of keep as a stable multinational conglomerate. They play themselves with currencies in a way. I should be careful what I'm saying, but they speculate as well on the currency market. So we had as well a finance unit that would basically just give us values, and they would be adjusted on the currencies depending on where we would do our products or services. Yeah. Then we have internal rate of return. So this is often what a lot of the change projects, or as well projects in general, get. evaluated on. I've written here trial and error. This depends on your company, yeah, how you perceive those. And this is, again, I would say this is an iterative process that needs to be instilled. You kind of have to take track how much the internal value actually is. Have project managers really kind of taken up, for example, in competency from the last project, can they now confidently adapt it themselves? Yeah, so there may be cultural competence basis, then as well kind of leadership, collaboration with particular supply chains. Are they independent? Do they still need a lot of support? Things like that. And of course as well payback period, and there are actually quite a few more. Then non-numerical analysis is, for example, brand awareness, employee morale. I have as well customer perception here, user friendliness, buy-in, and there are many more. Yeah, but buy-in in a way into the portfolio that it's desirable. Yeah, so especially with portfolios, you have an incredible interface to the outside as well. Yeah. Now this is what have I called this? A simple scoring model. Yeah, okay, that's actually a different term for that if you look at keyword. But this gives you a little bit the idea. So you could evaluate the weighing from different project, strategic fit, core competencies, what you're doing, urgency, how urgent is the project, are we bidding for it, return on investment, and then you come up kind of with a balanced scorecard that shows you. This is quite, I should have really been given this year as well green, this is kind of tough, yeah. Okay, 29, low, I understand that, but 61 is nearly 66, right? Okay, but you get the idea, yeah. You basically can then score different projects on the different drivers. And this is in a way how this is quantified very often, yeah. And then the banks call up and ask like, hey, what is your return on investment, and which portfolio do you hold at the moment? Can we buy into this? And then 2 hours later they say like, yeah, we sell it all again, and then you have a lot of fun. Yeah, okay, but you get the idea. Yeah, so it's basically the ratios that go in and the weighing that kind of multiplies into the actual numbers. Now those are processes. I don't want to go through it. They are recommended in literature, so benefits for project portfolio management. The process that I just talked through, different terminologies. Some have a single learning loop, some have a double learning loop. If you are interested in this, have a look at those. Yeah, so one's recommended with definitions, sits at different levels versus delivery. Yeah, so some portfolio approaches are divided by that. Then this is another one that came actually. I haven't written which one that is. Oh, that was my commercial company. So my commercial company, they had those assessment criteria for project selection, and they matched then the project managers as well based on their experience to the right project. Yeah, so again, have a look through. What was cool is that they have things like environmental impact, ethical considerations, and CSR. So this is not common, but you can see it's like a dotted line. Yeah, so or actually they are all dotted lines. But those and as well, there was one more that they were new. Yeah, so all I'm saying is they didn't have them before. Could have been as well that they just told me that is true. Or the other one, there was one more. Yeah, okay, never mind. But those may be examples.
Where does project risk sit in project selection?
Yeah, the risk is kind of you basically grade it. Yeah, so what would be? So in a model like this is kind of the risk indicator. Yeah, so if you have low points here and you have, for example, low success. Yeah, so core competencies, you're not very competent. Yeah, this depends how you're measuring that. Then you may not want to go for a project like that, or it's more risky to take on board. Does that make sense?
Yes, okay.
You think of refined risk application of
I
like.
think of risk as a separate entity of measurements, not
Yeah.
being implicit throughout the process. I thought you'd have it as a separate.
Well, we do. So the risk indicators are kind of done versus money invested versus
Return on investment.
basically what you're getting back, and then you break it down in terms of competent areas, new technologies. Yeah. So if you have a lot of new technologies, you are basically leveraging as well the risk because you may not have experience yet. Does that make sense? You're dealing there with uncertainty. But I think with Claudio, you should actually go quite a lot into risk assessment on that. And portfolios are used. You are spot on, yeah, for risk allocation against the investment that you're bringing in. Yeah. Okay. But if you're interested in that, I have a super reference for you. Yeah, remind me of that, and then I forward you this because this is a really interesting area. Yeah. So this is another module, model from Kerzer. He wanted to show how it actually kind of is organized at the company level. So it's kind of the same thing that we looked at, refined with different processes. Yeah, but you get the idea. And